When you hear the name Donald Trump, what picture comes to your mind? For some people, it is the face of a billionaire who built shiny towers with his name written in gold. For others, it is the voice of a television star saying, "You're fired," on national TV. And for millions around the world, it is the image of a president who shook up politics in ways nobody expected. But before all of that, before the fame, the scandals, and the power, there was simply a boy growing up in Queens, New York. His story begins there, in a world that was very different from the one he would one day dominate. Donald John Trump was born on a Friday morning, June 14, 1946, in Jamaica Hospital in Queens. His parents, Fred and Mary Trump, were raising a family that was both strict and ambitious. Fred Trump, Donald's father, was a successful builder. He did not just build houses, he built entire neighborhoods of affordable homes for working-class families. He was a man who believed in discipline, hard work, and control. Mary, Donald's mother, was the heart of the family, a woman from Scotland who carried a quiet strength and a touch of old-world charm. From the very beginning, Donald stood out. He was not the quiet child who followed rules without question. He was energetic, strong-willed, and often rebellious. His teachers at school noticed that he did not like to sit still or follow the usual path. He wanted to lead, to stand above the others. Sometimes that meant he got into trouble. His parents, especially his father, realized that young Donald needed strict guidance, or else his energy might explode in the wrong direction. That is why, at just 13 years old, Donald was sent away to a military academy. Imagine that, a teenage boy, full of energy and defiance, suddenly placed in a world of uniforms, marching drills, and shouted orders. At first, it was a shock. But in that strict environment, Donald found something valuable. The academy taught him discipline, competition, and above all, the hunger to win. He learned to see life as a battlefield, where strength and strategy mattered more than kindness or patience. Those lessons stayed with him forever. When Donald finished school, he did not want to be ordinary. He looked at his father's world of construction and real estate and thought, "I can do more. I can do bigger." So he went to Fordham University in New York, and then to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, one of the most prestigious business schools in America. At Wharton, Donald studied finance and real estate. But more than that, he absorbed the idea that life was about scale. Why build small houses when you could build skyscrapers? Why settle for little when you could go for the grandest dream possible? When he graduated, Donald joined his father's company. Fred Trump had built a fortune in the outer boroughs of New York, constructing middle-class apartments. But Donald looked across the river at Manhattan. He saw the glittering towers, the glamorous hotels, the center of power and fame. He told himself, "That's where I belong." It was not enough to be rich. He wanted to be known. He wanted to see his name in lights. The 1970s were a tough time in New York. The city was facing financial crisis, crime was high, and many people were leaving. But Donald saw opportunity where others saw danger. His first big project was the Grand Hyatt Hotel. The old Commodore Hotel near Grand Central Station was falling apart, a relic of the past. Most investors would have walked away. But Donald, with the confidence of youth, took it on. He made a deal with the Hyatt Corporation and with the city, using tax breaks and bold negotiation to bring the project to life. When the Grand Hyatt opened in 1980, with mirrored glass shining under the city lights, it announced the arrival of Donald Trump as a force to be reckoned with. From there, he reached higher. He built Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue, a sleek, golden skyscraper that became his signature. He did not just put up a building, he built a symbol. Inside were luxury apartments, glamorous shops, and a waterfall in the atrium. Celebrities moved in, tourists lined up to see it, and the name Trump became a brand. This was not just real estate. This was theater. Donald's personality matched the buildings he created, loud, bold, impossible to ignore. He loved the spotlight. He gave interviews, appeared in magazines, and showed up at every important event in New York. He was no longer just a businessman, he was becoming a public figure. People either admired his daring style or criticized his arrogance. But either way, they could not stop talking about him. The 1980s were his golden years. He bought casinos in Atlantic City, airplanes for his own airline, and even a football team in a short-lived league. He put the Trump name on everything: Trump Plaza, Trump Shuttle, Trump Taj Mahal. For Donald, it was all about scale and spectacle. The bigger, the better. He lived in luxury, traveled in private helicopters, and surrounded himself with models and celebrities. He was living the life of a modern-day king, but every kingdom faces storms. By the early 1990s, Donald's empire was drowning in debt. His casinos were bleeding money, his airline failed, and the recession hit hard. Newspapers that once celebrated his rise now predicted his fall. The banks came knocking, and for a moment, it looked like the Trump name would vanish under the weight of failure. Many people thought he was finished. Yet Donald Trump had something most people overlooked: an extraordinary ability to survive. He renegotiated with banks, cut deals, and used bankruptcy laws to protect his empire. And even when his finances were shaky, he never let the public see weakness. He still appeared in the news, still presented himself as a billionaire, still lived as if he were untouchable. Slowly, he rebuilt. The very personality that made people doubt him also made others believe he could rise again. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, Donald reinvented himself once more. This time, not just as a real estate mogul, but as a television star. When The Apprentice launched in 2004, millions of Americans tuned in every week to watch Donald Trump judge contestants trying to win a place in his world. His sharp voice, his dramatic gestures, and above all, his famous line, "You're fired," made him a cultural icon. Suddenly, a new generation knew him, not as a builder, but as a star. The Apprentice turned Donald Trump into more than a businessman. He became a symbol of success, a teacher of ambition, and a face recognized in every home. His catchphrase echoed in schools, offices, and comedy shows. And with television fame came something even more powerful: political influence. It started slowly. He gave interviews about politics, questioned leaders, and hinted at running for office. At first, people laughed. A real estate developer as president? A TV star in the White House? It sounded like a joke. But Donald was serious. He saw something in America: frustration, anger, and a hunger for change. And he believed he could be the voice for that change. But how did this man, who once built casinos and starred on TV, climb all the way to the presidency of the United States? That is the journey we will uncover in Part 2. The rise was not smooth, the battles were fierce, and the story of Donald Trump as a political figure is unlike any in American history. Donald Trump had always loved attention, but after The Apprentice, his fame reached a whole new level. Millions of Americans tuned in to watch him every week. He became a symbol of wealth and authority, a man who fired people on television with the wave of a hand. But Donald was restless. Business, television, and fame were not enough anymore. He wanted something bigger. He wanted to step into the world of politics. For years, Donald had flirted with the idea. He gave interviews about national problems, questioned presidents, and even tested the waters by talking about running. Most people brushed it off. To them, he was a celebrity businessman, not a serious leader. But behind the scenes, Donald was watching carefully. He noticed something. Many Americans were frustrated. They felt ignored by politicians, left behind by the economy, and angry about the direction of the country. Donald saw that anger as an opportunity. In 2015, he made his move. On a warm June day, Donald and his wife Melania rode down the golden escalator inside Trump Tower. Cameras flashed, reporters gathered, and Donald stepped up to a podium decorated with American flags. He announced that he was running for President of the United States. His speech shocked the world. He spoke in plain, direct language, not like a polished politician. He promised to put America first, to bring back jobs, to build a wall on the southern border, and to fight the establishment. Some people laughed. Others were stunned. But millions of Americans cheered. At first, the political experts said he had no chance. They called him a joke candidate. They thought his campaign would collapse in weeks. But Donald was not playing by their rules. He dominated the news with bold statements, fiery debates, and a style that no one could ignore. The more critics attacked him, the stronger his supporters became. He traveled across the country, holding massive rallies where people waited for hours just to hear him speak. For many of them, he was not just a candidate, he was a voice for their frustrations. Against all odds, Donald Trump won the Republican nomination. And then, in 2016, he faced Hillary Clinton in one of the most heated elections in American history. On election night, the world held its breath. One by one, states reported their results. And then it happened. Donald Trump had won. He would become the 45th President of the United States. The businessman, the TV star, the man who had once been mocked for even trying, was now the most powerful leader in the world. His presidency began with drama from day one. He promised to shake up Washington, and he did. He signed executive orders, pushed for stricter immigration policies, and renegotiated trade deals. Supporters praised him for being strong and fearless. Critics accused him of being reckless and divisive. The country seemed split in two, those who loved him and those who despised him. Every day, headlines exploded with stories about Trump. He used Twitter like no president before him, sending messages directly to the people, unfiltered and unpolished. His words could move markets, start controversies, or ignite debates in seconds. For his supporters, it was refreshing. For his opponents, it was dangerous. Trump's years in office were marked by battles. He clashed with the media, fought with political rivals, and faced investigations into his campaign and presidency. Yet, through it all, he kept his base of supporters loyal. They saw him as a fighter who refused to back down, a man who spoke their language and challenged the establishment. Then came the greatest test of his presidency, the year 2020. A global pandemic struck, shaking the world. The United States faced a health crisis, economic turmoil, and social unrest. Trump's handling of the crisis brought fierce debate. Supporters said he acted to protect jobs and the economy. Critics said he failed to take the danger seriously. The nation grew more divided than ever before. The 2020 election became one of the most intense in history. Trump faced Joe Biden, the former vice president. The campaign was filled with fiery debates, massive rallies, and heated arguments about the future of America. When the votes were counted, Joe Biden won. But Trump did not accept defeat easily. He claimed the election was unfair, and his words fueled anger among his followers. What followed was one of the most dramatic chapters in American history. On January 6, 2021, as Congress gathered to certify the election results, a mob of Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. The images shocked the world. Lawmakers fled, violence erupted, and the symbol of American democracy was under attack. Trump was blamed by many for inciting the chaos. It led to his second impeachment, something no president had faced before. After leaving office, Trump did not fade into the background. He continued to hold rallies, speak to his supporters, and hint at running again. To his followers, he remained a hero. To his critics, he remained a threat. Love him or hate him, one thing was certain: Donald Trump had left a mark on history that could not be erased. From a boy in Queens to a real estate mogul, from a TV star to the President of the United States, Donald Trump's story is unlike any other. It is a story of ambition, controversy, survival, and power. Whether you admire him or oppose him, his journey shows how one person's willpower and desire for attention can change the world. And even today, his name continues to dominate conversations. People argue about him at dinner tables, in classrooms, in newsrooms, and on social media. His influence is not just in buildings or television shows anymore, it is in the very fabric of American politics. So what do you think? Was Donald Trump a builder who dreamed bigger than anyone else, or a disruptor who divided a nation? Maybe he was both. But one thing is certain: his life story is far from over. I share stories like this every day. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one.